Where land meets water, an invitation lingers, not just between elements, but between versions of yourself. You could remain on shore, where it's safe, familiar, predictable, or you could cross into the unknown. I'm Shannon Keegan, and this is Stories from the Water, where we dive into the courage it takes to begin, the resilience that keeps us moving forward, and the wisdom that only emerges in the space between. I'm here today with Ted Lomicka. Tell me, Ted, what is your relationship with the water?
Oh, I love the water. It's a good relationship. I think the best way to answer that is give you and your listeners some framing context as to why I swim. And to do that, I'll really go all the way back to my first meaningful experience in the water. I was 8 years old at the time I first fell in love with the water. It was a cold, windy Labor Day. And what I called swimming was really just splashing around. My mother hadn't planned to stay long, but she saw something in me that day that let me remain in the pool for hours. Somewhere between thinking and surfacing, I discovered buoyancy. The quiet, magical midpoint where I could float. It felt like flying. You can swim all day long, and one day you will, my mother said to me, before she wrapped me in the towel when the cold finally caught up to me and my lips turned blue. I didn't return to that pool for months, but every night I returned to my dreams, staring upward, arms outstretched, pulling myself through the air as if gravity had loosened its grip. Swimming had taken hold. More than 40 years later, I found myself doing exactly what she had predicted, swimming all day long in the open ocean. As I moved through the water, my mind drifted backward to that moment. My mother is gone now, but her words remain, echoing not as memory, but reality. This was the day that she had seen before I could. The ocean has a way of stripping things down to what really matters. Out there, time feels finite in a way that sharpens its value. You begin to think about what endures, what you pass on. I wondered what lessons my daughters would carry forward, and what quiet moments, like that day in the pool, might one day shape their lives in ways I could not yet see. The sea humbles you. Suspended in its vastness, pride dissolves. You're small, temporary, exposed. Yet in that vulnerability comes clarity about who you are and who you hope to be. A tear formed in my eye. I held it there, almost experimentally, willing the electromagnetic force of water's surface tension defy gravity. For a moment, physics felt personal. Gravity won. The tear slipped free, trapped inside my goggle, an artificial barrier prohibiting it from returning to the ocean, the place it now belongs. I kept swimming. Then something changed. I felt it before I saw it. A sharp, distant, distorted movement beneath me. At first, it made no sense. My mind stretched for patterns, for something familiar, but the longer I looked, the clearer it became. I lifted my head and signaled to the boat. Shark, I shouted to my crew, but there was nothing they could do. I took a breath and went under. Too far from the boat, 50 feet instead of 15. I realized this was mine to handle. No one was coming. No one could. I found him again. A scalloped hammerhead, 8 feet long, moving fast, coming right at me. Time slowed. There's a moment in encounters like this where fear gives way to clarity. I wasn't going to outswim him. I wasn't going to outpower him. So I chose something else. I turned toward him, arms wide, fists clenched, and eyes fixed. No retreat. For a split second, we held position. Predator and predator, each assessing the other. Then he turned, and in an instant he was gone, back into the vast blue from which he came. I surfaced, breathing hard, scanning for him again. Nothing, gone. So I sat on. That moment stayed with me, not as fear, but as perspective. The shark wasn't a villain. He was exactly what he was meant to be, powerful, precise, and essential for the ocean, for he hunts the dead, dying, sick, and injured, and maintains the ecological resilience of the ecosystem. And in that brief exchange between man and shark, there was no malice, only instinct, awareness, and mutual recognition. Out there, you don't conquer the ocean, you participate in it. And if you're lucky, you leave with something more than distance. You leave with respect.
Wow. Yeah, we got to get into some of this, Ted. So I was starting with your mom. How do you think she had the foresight to know that you'd be going back to be swimming all day?
She's funny like that. She would look and she would dream and she would believe. And that was huge in terms of what she ultimately knew. She saw and perceived right away my love for the water and knew big things would come of it. And she always had big aspirations for me.
Yeah. Do you have siblings?
No, only a child.
Yeah. Why this swim?
Yeah. This island, why this swim? I'll set it up.
These islands, I should say.
These islands. I think ultimately it comes down to what I want to gain from it. And what I'm really trying to gain is a change, a growth, something in me that will bring through a personal growth. And I'll elicit that for you in a moment. But first, I want to go to even more basic concept about mindset and what I hope to really get from it. And I can use swimming as a vivid example. So exactly I will. The story I shared with you is from when I was 8, but at the age of 9, my mom and dad, they got me on the swim team. And I was terrible. I was a terrible swimmer. In fact, I was so bad, they decided I was best placed on the 8 and unders. And I'm not sure how it happened, but I didn't have much in the way of lessons, or I never really took to it. But I was really bad, and I was the slowest child out there, and I would almost get completely gassed in my event that was the 100, the 100-yard swim. And my dad gave me advice on my last meet that I remember, and he said, Ted, I want you to go out there. I want you to fight the water as hard as you can, and you do not give up. Well, I gassed out at 3 laps of my 4-lap 100, and the lifeguard got out of his chair. And that's when my dad said, enough of swimming. You're really bad at swimming, and it's so bad you're an embarrassment to the family. So this is my part in swimming. And here's what I said. I said it was really fascinating because it was really a juxtaposition. I was too young to really appreciate what mindsets were, but looking back on it as an adult, I totally get it. And what my dad had was what we could call a fixed mindset. And that assumes talents are innate and unchangeable, leading to fear and avoidance of challenge. But what I had is a growth mindset. I had it, and then because it was part of my childhood rebellion, I developed it even deeper. And so mine was a growth mindset. So in my rebellion, I adopted a mindset that abilities can be developed through dedication, effort, and learning. And as seen through a growth mindset, our failures represent our greatest opportunities for growth. I knew in swimming I had massive opportunities for growth. My early failures in swimming, paired for a love of the water, combined later in life when I listened to my swim coach and developed a competent stroke. From the age of 9, I didn't swim again until I was in college, Tulane. We had to take 2 PE classes. One was ballroom dancing and my second was swimming. And so it was graded on how well you did from where you started to where you finished. Let's just say I got an A in that course. We learned the beautiful S-stroke, and I know the S-stroke is no longer in vogue, but I just loved that fluid motion, and I took to it, and I loved it. And because I got an A, my swimming allowed me to go junior abroad. My grades were high enough, and so swimming allowed me to see all of Europe, which was really cool, or substantial parts of Western Europe. Swimming did a lot for me, and I love swimming.
Yeah. So swimming class at Tulane enables you said, to go to Europe. And then where does this fit into your busy life post-college and all that?
Yeah.
You said you have kids. So how does it fit in?
It's weird because at that moment, I used the swimming. It was a launch pad. I go to Europe. I see it. I love it. 5 years out, I go to business school at Vanderbilt. I love that. I'm graduating and I've got a list of things I want to do. the proverbial list of things I want to do, but not before I die, before I get married. And my girlfriend at the time is very willing to help me with this list. And so one of the things I want to do is a triathlon. And I guess they call it an Olympic distance, where you swim a little bit shy of a mile, you ride a bike 25 miles, and then you run a 10K, 6.2 miles. And so that was the last I had swimmed. I got out there, I'm in a scuba diving wetsuit because the water was cold, which was a bad choice all around. And my next triathlon was one where I improved my swim. Total Immersion Swimming, Terry McLaughlin, great prolific book. I read that book. That's all I did. Just read. And I got much, much better. Well, I was hooked on triathlon. I loved it. And that was my basis for swimming until I attempted some other bigger swim.
Yeah. Okay. How long was your triathlon? You said you became ultra endurance triathlon. So you already were working on this mindset. And I guess I want to chime in too. Total immersion is a big mindset piece too. So that buoyancy that you learned when you were 8 and you learned to fly that you had in your dreams,
right.
But then your dad tells you to go fight the water. Like that's not how you swim.
It's not how you swim at all.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about this, because there's an endurance mindset growing as well as a different understanding of your body in the water through total immersion.
There really is. And so it's interesting, the water that I chose, and perhaps because I'm a triathlete, right? In the sport of triathlon, we can wear wetsuits. And so I started with the Olympic distance, the distances I just described. Absolutely loved it. Got connected. Did Memphis in May, which in its day, in the early 2000s, the best of the best, because you could qualify for the World Championship and Ironman at that race. So I met some really phenomenal people, and they were inspiring. 2006, I did my first iron distance triathlon. Fast forward, and I did my 25th iron distance triathlon. I'm in an airport. And it was Ironman Boulder. It's a really challenging race because it's at altitude and you swim at altitude, hard to breathe. And I was sitting and having burger, beer, and fries, talking to a gentleman that was sitting next to me. And he said, "What were you here for?" I said, "I just did a Ironman." He said, "That's interesting. How many have you done?" I said, "This was my 25th. He said, "How many have you started?" I was like, "Oh, this is good," because I didn't get a compliment in the first answer. This is what he's after. 25. Started, finished, 25. And he looked at me and he says, "I can tell by this sport, you're not sufficiently challenged." And I thought that was really fascinating. It was a unique take. He was a cultural anthropologist. His timing was right, because this takes me up to calendar year 2019, that was where I stepped up to the ULTRAMAN, which is a 3-day stage race. You cover 321 miles over 3 days, but the swim in it is a 10K. And I did it in Florida, qualified for the World Championship in Hawaii, which got me back to Hawaii. And I had the chance to swim. I had already done the World Championship triathlon, but this was the swim for the ULTRAMAN. So we started Digby Beach, where all the world's best marathon triathlon swimmers swim. But we kept going. It was so cool because I wanted to do that. I really wanted to do that when I was there at the Ironman World Championship in 2026. Well, here at the ULTRAMAN in 2019, I don't have to turn around. We just swim and swim. And we get out and then we ride our bikes up the side of a volcano. And it was just so beautiful. But the vision that I saw when the sun peeked out over the top of a shield volcano, it hit the water and the beams went down to the greatest depth that we could see, 200 feet below the surface. And they danced and they moved. And I knew there was a message there. There was music there. I couldn't hear it, but I knew it was playing. And the breathtaking beauty of that was something so remarkable. I was more than a half mile off the shore. And I absolutely loved this experience. And I said to myself, I must come back. I must learn how to do this marathon swimming. I must go bigger. I absolutely love this. And so I really cut my teeth at St. Lucia. That's where I learned how to marathon swim. St. Lucia, Sue Dyson, she was incredibly helpful. I also got 2 marathon swimmer mentor coaches out of that, Katie Blair and Chris Althouse. I would pepper them with questions. They would give me answers. So the 3 of us were discovering St. Lucia. So in calendar year 2021, 2022, and 2023, I did 3 swims. One was a 23-mile swim. The other was a 22-mile swim. And the third was a 21-mile swim. That third one was to the island of Martinique. The first one was on the eastern shore, and the second one was on the western shore. So it was just a beautiful array of swims where I got to see unimaginably beautiful coastline, and that swim from an English-speaking to a French-speaking island of 21 miles that sounds very familiar, with a catch. The water is delightfully warm. Now, the payoff for warm water, right? The trade winds. You're in warm water. You've chosen that. So you're going to get really strong winds, really strong currents, eddies, the occasional wave that hits you out of left field and slams into your face. But I love it. I just learned to love it. And so you're dancing with the water leads and you're dancing. And that's, Chris Althouse told me that. He said, Ted, because he was the first person to ever swim the eastern coast of St. Lucia. And he said, Ted, you feel like you're in a washing machine. In 2 hours, almost gave up until I figured it out. Give up your beautiful stroke, go with the water. And that's the solution. So totally different, right? For my first swimming days, it's the ocean's leading. I'm dancing with it. I'm interacting with it. It's a flow.
Have you ever noticed how the water shows you things about yourself you didn't know you needed to learn? My swimbound program isn't necessarily about swimming farther or getting tougher, though that often happens. It's about learning how to stay oriented when things feel uncertain, how to trust yourself in motion, how to build capacity without force. I'm exploring a new swimbound experience based on a houseboat on Lake Shasta, a multi-month coaching program culminating in an in-person swim experience. We'll spend our days swimming, connecting, resting, and reflecting, learning how to listen to our bodies, stay oriented, and move with more ease in the water and in life. If this stirs something in you, email me, shannon@intrepidwater.com, and let me know. I'd love to hear what you're curious about.
Beautiful. Man, wow. So then you've been swimming in the Caribbean and fallen in love with marathon swimming. How did you end up out? You said you'd found Hawaii through ULTRAMAN. What brought you back to Hawaii for this little 3-island?
Stephen Monitones, he has this list, right? And there's 7 swims on that list, right? The ocean's 7. And there's one of those swims that's in warm water. And that's the one I channel onto. Yeah, the one I channel onto. It's like, let's do the warm water one. And it is certainly the one that features other challenges. It's incredibly rough, incredibly tumultuous, features aggressive marine life. So I learn as much as I can about this swim. My mentor, Katie Blair, has done this swim. Chris Althouse has wanted to do this swim for years and years. And so in 2023, I met Terry Dietz, and she was my feeder. And I said, Terry, I would really love to do the swim. And I'm meeting people, and they're saying, other folks I'm meeting and greeting, they said, tell me about the other marathon swims you've done. And I tell them a little bit about St. Lucia and any of the English Channel, Catalina Channel, Cook Strait. And I had to say, look, and I don't even consider myself a swimmer. I'm more of an endurance athlete, but I'm guaranteed, I'm really confident. If I need to, I can swim for 24 hours up to that. And man, we got that swim done, and it was just so incredibly epic. I just love the moments out there. It was about 13, 14 miles into the swim. I knew I had about 14 miles to go. Really dark at night out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And I asked my kayaker, I see a faint glow out there, and I know it's not Molokai, because Molokai doesn't have enough human activity for that to be a faint glow. It's got to be the most heavily populated Hawaiian island in the chain. That's Oahu. And I'm looking at that, and I'm realizing I am swimming to Oahu, and I can do this swim. And I look at my kayaker. He says, is that Oahu? He says, yeah. I said, curious we're not swimming to it. He says, I know. We've got to hold the rum lines, so we're a little off. So that's why we're headed what looked to be southwest of Oahu. But trust me, we're going to get there. And boy, we did.
Wow.
I didn't quite appreciate how technical the finish would be. It was incredibly technical. So captain jumps overboard. He's trying to find the way path. I'm jumping in, and Terry's jumping in the water and reporting and finding the direction. Captain liked to sight from the topography of the underwater shells and fish and marines and sees what they're doing. And that's where we go. So yeah, it was really, really a spectacular moment. Just seeing there and having lived that experience was truly wonderful. And so that was what inspired me to come back to Hawaii and do this swim that I'd been watching. Because once I've done it, I looked, and I decided that I wanted to do my own. And what I love about Hawaii is that sense of connection. I'm a real big believer that the mind-body connection is really powerful. But the unique thing about Hawaii that I knew from Ironman and ULTRAMAN World Championship triathlons is there's a spiritual significance of the island of Hawaii that you just simply can't ignore. One experience that I had there flying over the island, the big island in a helicopter, is I'm looking down and I can see the island being formed from the volcano spewing into the ocean. The southeastern side of the island is literally being formed right in front of my eyes.
Wow.
And when geological time happens in real time, it feels like a magical moment. There's a spiritual connection. I feel like I'm witnessing something that would normally take millions of years, and here I am seeing it in real time. And that's the power of Hawaii, and that's why I love to swim there. And so when I was talking to Terry Dietz, who helped me, my feeder for Kaiwi, Molokai Channel swim, coming back, and I've been watching this Triple Maui Nui Swim and researching it, I reached out to her because I said, I'm really interested in the swim. And the history on it is really brief. In calendar year 1989, Harry Hoffaker attempted it. Harry Hoffaker is one of a truly legendary Hawaiian swimmer. He was the original pioneer. He did so many of these Hawaiian Channel swims for the first time a human ever made this swim in modern history. And so he attempted the Triple Maui Nui because he had done each of these three channels many times over, and it was important to him, and he wanted to do it. He attempted it in 1989. He did not finish. He got 2 out of the 3. He was about 3 miles from getting that finish, but the finish eluded him. And so you take that, fast forward to calendar year 2019, and Becca Mann gives it a try. Becca Mann, for 8 consecutive years, was on the U.S. national swim team. She's a child prodigy swimmer. She swam the IRO Channel from Lanai to Maui when she was 10 years old. A pretty big swim, 10.5 miles for a 10-year-old is a pretty stout swim.
Pretty amazing swim, yeah.
It really is. So she came back as a young adult, and she did all 3 channels. She started on the island of Maui, swam to Molokai. From Molokai, swam to Lanai, and from Lanai, closed that circuit and landed back at Maui, the first person ever to do the Triple Maui Nui Swim. And I looked at it and I thought, that's really, really remarkable. There's a chance I could do the swim. Potentially, I could be the first man. More important, I could prove to myself that I could do something that heroic. So given that as a context, here's my pitch to my great friend, Terry Dietz. She is an incredibly accomplished marathon swimmer. And I really, really enjoy interacting with Terry and swimming beside her because she is a modern legend. She is becoming a legend with her prolific completion of these Hawaii channels, one by one. So here's my pitch to her. As humans, we are explorers by our very nature. We crave adventure. Yet, as modern humans, we often find ourselves trapped in unnatural comfort that makes us complacent and denies our true existence. To break free of modern complacency and give ourselves the personal growth to become more fully human, we need to experience adventure, controlled hardship that we overcome through mental and physical strength. We need opportunities for adversity-navigated victory in life. When selecting an endurance challenge to pursue, remember this. If it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. When you have identified an adventure, it's great to have friends who have done it or will do it by your side. Remember this too. Anyone can invite you to a party, but only a true friend invites you to a harrowing, life-affirming experience and calls it fun. The ocean is a wonderful location for adventure. It's a totally different environment to that of which we are biologically not adapted. And that is the challenge. In the ocean, we're forced to confront our fears, to learn about ourselves, to appreciate the safety and protection of others, to truly enjoy engaging with nature, to become awestruck by the majesty of the universe, and to deeply connect with our own spiritual awareness. Time in the ocean is how we grow. It accelerates our journey to become more fully human.
I love that.
She said yes to that.
Yeah, I
she
would
said
too.
yes to that. Yeah.
Have you read The Explorer's Gene by Alex Hutchinson?
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, you should, and especially as a triathlete, he's an endurance runner, but I just loved the Explorer piece of it because it's like for the longest time as a marathon swimmer myself, I've been trying to understand like why I'm drawn to the edge, but that's what it's the Explorer. It's the Explorer in us. That's what we want.
That's
Yeah.
correct. We crave it. Yeah, as humans, we crave it. And if you look at our bodies and how our bodies are designed on our evolutionary nature, we are great apes, but we don't hang out in the trees. We're scavengers that can run in the heat of the Sierra. That explains our bodies. And we need to do that. We crave it. We are, by our very nature, we're explorers in the ocean. Wow, it's so beautiful.
There's so much of it to explore. We've plotted all these things on land, but the water is like the uncharted territory.
Yeah. There's 70% of the surface of our globe, right?
So I'm just in awe. That's very cool. So I was trying to think, there was one other thread, I feel like, from that. Oh, the way you opened it up too are the creatures of comfort. Those weren't your exact words, but that's been a big one staring me in the face too. It's like, why do I keep doing this? I do this in order to come back and appreciate every single little thing that I've got. And even when I'm out there, I want to appreciate the people, all of it, right?
Sure.
That's why, right?
Yeah, and I did a swim last year, which was really interesting. It was called End Wet. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I've done that. Yeah. It's one of my first marathon swims.
Yeah, and I just loved it. I renamed that the fugitive swim because swimming is not permitted on any other day other than the swim. And that one is just a great example of getting totally out of your comfort zone. I remember watching TV the night before that swim, and they actually had film footage of a fugitive who had taken to the water to try to escape the police. They had video with a camera from a helicopter, and I thought that was really amazing. My friend Chris Allshouse, because I had Chris Allshouse there, Katie Blair, Terry Dietz, and some other great friends that showed up for that. Chris was so excited the night before. He called me up and he said, "We're going to have a great swim tomorrow." I said, "Chris, what makes you say that? The weather looks really bad outside." He says, "Well, there's a thunderstorm that's so bad, storm tracers have arrived." And that means warmer water and strong currents. I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
I'll never forget the year I did End Wet because it was like a flood year in the water. Was it like this for you too? It was like chocolate milk. Like I've never put my face in chocolate milk. And then you're like, oh, the world. Oh, chocolate milk. It's like the craziest sensation. So disorienting.
We had 1 inch of visibility.
Oh, wow. That's, bonkers. But that's not where you and Terry ended up. So Terry says yes.
Terry says yes. So this adventure ensued. And, I find myself literally, I've swam 34 miles in the Pacific Ocean from Lanai to Maui to Molokai, back to Lanai, 3 channels, nonstop, 1 swim. Quick synopsis: started in the afternoon, swam through a thunderstorm, swam all night, endured uncomfortably cool water. Some of your swimmers will pay me as a triathlete for this. The water was 74, so we'll let them decide if that's cool or not. Right. Some will consider that quite balmy. I nearly abandoned the effort. I continued on for the sake of my extraordinary crew. I welcomed the sunrise. I swam through the morning. I encountered a pod of whales. I found myself in that encounter with a whale calf, and I discovered a deeper spiritual meaning from that. And then, after 23 hours and 47 minutes of continuous swimming, it's 3:10 p.m. on Sunday, February 22nd, 2026. I step out onto dry land for the 3rd time, cleared the high water mark, and became the first man and second person in history to finish the Triple Maui Nui Swim. I never thought I would do anything quite like that.
What was the date again that you finished?
So I finished on February 22nd, 2026.
Wow. So just a couple months ago. So you're still swimming in this. I did this thing. Yeah.
I still have kind of the afterglow of the experience and physically coming back. I'm working on regaining the feel of the water. I get 1,000 yards in. I'm like, done. And so, I'm really looking forward to it. Later this year, I'll be swimming a loop around Key West.
Oh, nice.
It'll be a lot of fun. 12 and a half. So I'm gradually getting ready for that.
Nice.
Each one of these channels had a separate experience that was really cool because there's 3 of them. And so it really did feel like 3 distinctly different swims interconnected as to a single swim.
Take us there.
I'll just take you there in chronological order because that's the biggest one for me. We started at 3:23 p.m. Terry and I both jumped in. My companion swimmer, my tandem swimmer, we're both going to do this entirety of this entire swim. We got on our boat. We took the boat to the island of Lanai. We jumped in from the boat to the island. We get to the island of Lanai. We put our arms out, covered with all of our grease, ready to go.
Yep.
Let the arms down, right in the water, and wow, it's on, right? And I thought, I'm cool, but I'm comfortably cool. And I'm just going to swim. And Terry was so wonderful. I could look over at her and you know how I think of her and how I regard her incredibly high. And she helps me put together this stroke because I'm matching her stroke for stroke, pace for pace. And so I'm doing 55 is my number of strokes I take per minute. That's a both hand count. And I'm just thinking of all the wonderful people that I have on that boat. Tina Neal is an incredibly prolific swimmer. Tina Neal is one of the 5 swimmers that have literally swam the Ali Nui Channel. So any swimmer that can swim from the Big Island to the island of Maui is in a really special class. And she was my feeder, so she's helping me. And that was just such an incredible experience. And one of the things that she said to me, she gave it to me a text the day before the swim, be kind to yourself. And that was her advice. Be kind to yourself, because she knows exactly what I need to hear. Really concise. And I totally get it. It would be so easy to beat yourself up, to get so frustrated. It's such a long swim. Don't allow that to happen. I had Michelle Simmons. She's my observer. Michelle Simmons is a really accomplished triathlete. She lives in Hawaii and she races the Hawaii World Championship triathlon almost every year. And she said, Ted, we're here to keep you safe and to keep you protected. So I want you to relax out there and realize you're safe and you're protected and just enjoy the day. And so she explained to me what that did. You want to be out of your fight and flight and you want to be into your rest and digest. And that's where everything comes together so well. And I realized a deeper appreciation for swimming, what we're really doing. We're putting ourselves into an environment where our natural inclination is this anxious fear. And what we need to do is get out of that. And we need to find our calm confidence. And so that's her advice to me. And I got these 2 people that gave me just this really wonderful advice. Oh, man. And they're going to be there for supporting me for up to 24 hours. And my great friend, Terry. So we're swimming, starts to rain, and then it starts to rain harder. Captain Andy Joka, who is an amazing captain. He's a former retired Coast Guard, and he's got a companion, Phil Kibbe. And so he and Phil are co-captains, and they're kayakers, and they're joined by Logan Kibbe, Phil's son, and Brett Collins, an emergency medical technicians. That's the core 4, and they're absolutely wonderful. But Andy Joka has been watching all the radars, same radars the Coast Guard would use. And he says, Ted and Terry, we have thunderstorms. There are thunderstorms all around us. There's more than 1,000 lightning strikes in this thunderhead. Now, you're quite lucky because it's going all around you at the other islands. But if it comes within 5 miles, the swim is over. We're pulling you out, just so you know that. One bolt came within 6 miles, and it was really cool. And we get closer and closer. So we're swimming from the island of Lanai to the island of Maui. And Terry is struggling. She is getting hypothermia. And her feed, she's not fully consuming her feeds. And I found out after the swim, when she's not as communicative as she should be, that was the signal.
It's a sign.
And yeah, it's the sign. And Tina and Michelle know Terry incredibly well. There's no way Terry will give up. So they have to make the call. And it was sad and it was lonely. And it set me up for this experience in the Au Au channel, the first of the 3 channels that I'll share with you. Au Au is the Hawaiian name, Au Au. It's not ouch ouch, although we did certainly get stung by some of those Portuguese man-o'-wars. So it could have been, but it actually means in Hawaiian to take a bath, because it's a really nice channel, a nice way to kind of ease into the Hawaiian swim. And so here's my take on the overview effect. I'm nearing the end of Au Au channel, and I know it because the lights of Ka'anapali Beach are starting to take shape. They're still too far away, but now they're real. I'm moving forward, stroke by stroke. But at the same time, it feels like I'm just floating, weightless, on the surface of the Pacific. I lift my arms out of the water, and for a moment, I imagine I'm waving to the people on the beach. But it's pitch black. No one can see me. Out here, I'm invisible, small, alone. So I keep swimming out of the darkness and toward the light. As I get closer, I can make out the shoreline. This place filled with people on vacation, with family, with connection. And I feel it, how I miss my own. My wife, Michelle, my daughters, Ashton and Emory, and my mother-in-law, Johanna. We were all here in 2021, same place, different time. And now I'm swimming back to that exact point, same coordinates, new moment. Above me, the clouds hide the stars, but below me, they're everywhere. Every stroke lights up the water. Bioluminescence, flashing like tiny galaxies. It's like I'm swimming through the universe. And somewhere in the moment, my perspective shifts. I start to wonder, I'm swimming toward the shore. Is that what I'm doing? Or am I being pulled toward it? I feel like an astronaut looking back at the Earth. That shift has a name, the overview effect. It hits hard. Suddenly, I don't feel alone anymore. I feel connected to everything, to the ocean beneath me, to the sky above me, to the people on that distant shore, to my family, and to this universe itself. I am not a man alone in the ocean. I am an explorer. And in this moment, I feel like I found what I was looking for. One small stroke for a man, one giant stroke for mankind. I stand up, unsteady, using my legs for the first time in 5 hours and 54 minutes. 9.5 miles across the Kaiwi Channel. 9:17 p.m. I step onto the sand at Anapali Beach and declare, the eagle has landed. And then, almost immediately, I turn back and swim out again, away from the land and back into the vast, living, cosmic ocean.
All right. So that's the first one.
That's the first one.
Okay.
And back at it. And then,
back at it. But you said nighttime, so you're just...
Yeah, it's just a touch and go. So what we were doing was we were trying to conform to two sets of independent rules. We've got the Hawaii Channel Swimming Association's rules, and we also have the Marathon Swimmers Federation rules. Mm-hmm. And here's what they say in the multiple channel swims. Hawaii Channel Swimming Association says you can clear the water, exit the high water mark, get back into the water where you're permitted to rest for 10 minutes. Swimmers Federation rules say you can arrive, clear the water, clear the high water mark, come back, rest on the beach for 10 minutes before getting back into the water. We need to take the more stringent of the two, and we realize we have no time at all. We get out, we immediately get back in. When I was debriefing with Becca Mann, she said, I love how you did that. You got back into the water immediately. She said she rested on the shore, and I might forget her exact times, but I think she had something like 8 minutes after leg one, maybe somewhere around 8 or 9 minutes on leg two. And she said that only served to cause her muscles to tighten up. And when she get back into the water, she could feel it for a solid hour of this undue pain she really wished she hadn't. So for all future swimmers, Becca Mann and I conferred, it is really best to do that. Get out and immediately back in and resume swimming.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that for sure. I've done a few turns in my day, and it's, decide that it's happening no matter what, and then turn around and go, because the longer you sit there, the harder it is to convince yourself to get back in. That's great. Okay, leg two.
Leg two, this is the longest of the legs. And so now we're looking, this is the Palolo channel. And in terms of its direct translation, it means the crazy fisherman. And the idea, you'd have to actually be pretty crazy to be out fishing in this channel. It's the one that has the greatest degree of exposure to the trade winds, which blow at 20 nautical miles per hour. That's 23 miles per hour as for reference. So it's a very long swim. By distance, that second leg is a total distance of 14.8 miles after I've already done 9.5.
Wow.
Through the night, swimming deep into the night with that deep sense of fatigue, it's almost an ominous sense of foreboding. This next little passage from my experience in finishing this channel really gives some evidence to that. So I'll share it with you and your audience. The darkest moment of the entire Triple Maui Nui Swim came just before daybreak on the uncomfortably cold landing on the southern side of the island of Molokai, the longest continuous fringing reef in the United States, at the shallow waters of Kamala Wharf. The water was too shallow for the boat to come close to shore, so our boat crew waits from a distance of more than a half mile, where Captain Andy Joka, aboard the kayak, helps me find a spot to safely land in the now exceptionally shallow water amidst the sharp coral reef. We seek a safe passage for me to walk out of the water, step foot on land, and clear the high water mark so that I can immediately return to the water and swim to Lanai. From a half mile away, the water was the same as the rest of the Palelo Channel, 74 degrees Fahrenheit. But here it had fallen to 72 degrees, then to 70 degrees. And beyond that, I pledged to myself I would not seek to estimate. A natural freshwater spring flows into the Kamala Wharf, creates a brackish mix, lowers the water temperature, and introduces runoff from the valley. That runoff carries remnants from the mountains to the valley, which can include animal remains and other detectable, delectable scents. While Captain Andy, Joka, and I are slowly finding our way to the shore, navigating through a maze of coral, and finding the only viable path forward, reversing course as needed, and making a second, third, or even fourth go of it. Our crew from the distant boat saw something of concern. They noticed the definitive menacing fin of a large shark on the prow at the Kamala Wharf. Although I didn't see it, I could certainly feel its presence. Since the water was brackish and exceptionally cool, due to the aforementioned freshwater tributary spilling into the bay, the most likely type of shark, in my opinion, was the exceptionally aggressive and fervently territorial bull shark. Although, given the rarity of bull sharks in this part of Hawaii, Galapagos shark, or even a tiger shark, seems much more likely to my crew. Getting back to the task at hand, I still needed to reach the shore, and we're slowly navigating through what now seems like a maze of shallow water coral reef structures. We know mazes from our childhood as fun exercises through which there's only one pathway to a desired destination. But in Greek mythology, mazes, or more properly, labyrinths, are always guarded by a minotaur. If the wrong path is taken by the person walking or swimming through the labyrinth, then that pathfinder will come face to face with a dangerous monster. In this case, a bull shark. However, I am also quite aware that perhaps I am the minotaur to the shark. I had no encounter with that shark. I didn't see it. So that's kind of a subsequent imagination. But when I did get out of that, I stepped out of the water. I do my routine. We find the high water mark. I step on a thorn. Welcome to Molokai.
Oh.
If you've ever been to Molokai, I call the island, it's almost the opposite of Aloha in terms of the welcoming. It's quite a shaming spectacle. They don't want visitors there, and so they make it known you're not quite welcome there. Although if you make your way all the way to Molokai Hotel, it's absolutely wonderful. You'll have the best time. So be persistent and just don't take that personally. So my thorn is my welcome, and that suffices for my human-to-human shaming. So we're turning around, and I'm having a low moment, and I'm feeling like, as disappointing as this is, I feel like 2 channels is enough. It's been a lot of swimming, and it's about 7:05 a.m. on Sunday morning. And I tell Captain Andy, I say, Andy, I think I'm done. And he looks at me and he says, Ted, think about how you feel right now. And think about how you'll feel for the rest of your life when you finish the Triple Maui Nui Swim. And I just reflected. I stepped to the water's edge. I jumped in. I did one stroke, a butterfly, and then set off in what for me is a very strong freestyle. And I swam and I said, he's absolutely right. And then I felt humbled because I've been thinking of this decision as it impacted me. And I didn't think how it impacted him. And this is his moment. He wants to be part of history. That's why he's here. That's why he traveled all night. That's why he and his crew literally sailed their boat from Hawaii, Oahu, to Maui. And they're going back. This isn't 24 hours for them. This is 72 hours. And so now I'm not swimming for me because I've given up on myself, but I'm swimming for my crew and I'm determined to make it.
Wow. That's a nice shift to make, right?
That's perspective, right? That's what the ocean does. And it's so beautiful because the water goes into my ears. And so my hearing is greatly dulled. I can see when that sun comes out, but only to 200 feet below. And that ocean and that channel is 600 feet deep. There's nothing in my range of view. And so it's sensory deprivation. So you are alone with your thoughts. And it's such a wonderful thing. For people that are non-swimmers, here's how I explain it to them. Think about the moment you're in the shower in the morning and that 5 minutes, and you have some of the best ideas of your entire day, that creativity hits you. That's 5 minutes. What if that were 5 hours? What kind of things would you think about? What kind of things would you learn? What kind of problems would you solve?
Yeah, I always tell people when they talk about the idea in the shower, I'm like, that's the magic of the water. Yeah, it's the water, but go to the water. That's where it's at. Free ourselves from all the other things in our life that take over. Go to the water.
And then, gosh, I've got about 6.2 miles to go, and Michelle Simmons, just a bundle of energy. She basically says the best moment of the swim, hey, Ted, you've only got a 10K to go. You do these all the time. And it put it into perspective, right? And a mindset that professional athletes use all the time. They have an amazing ability to forget. And so this was my opportunity to forget about the 28 miles I had just swam and think nothing about the 6.2 and then think nothing about stroke, 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 stroke. Stay in the moment, right? Absolutely stay in the moment. And I say this as one of the key mindsets. I tell myself, don't dwell on the past. Don't fret about the future. Just live in the moment. And this is really poignant advice, really powerful. Because as humans, we get so distracted. We dwell on the past. We ruminate on the past. That can create the conditions for depression. We fret the future. We worry about the future. We ruminate on the future. That can create the conditions for anxiety. And so to break free of it and have our best life, just live in the moment. And so I take that quote, don't dwell on the past. Don't fret about the future. Just live in the moment. And I condense it into a mantra. Don't dwell, don't fret, just live. Don't dwell, don't fret, just live. Really powerful advice. Simple, but powerful.
So your last 10K, take us through it. Is this where the pot of whales is?
This is it. No? This is it. This is the treat, right? This is absolutely the treat. And whales have such incredible memories. You know, we know elephants as having incredible memories. Well, whales, they can live a century long. And so, you know, in 37 years, they've seen humans make this single day migration 3 times before. They saw it with Harry Hoffaker. They saw it with Becca Mann, and they've been watching me. And so I'll read you a little bit about it as it struck me in my journal entry, how I wrote it. I regard swimming with the whale calf as the most profound experience I've ever had with marine life of any kind. That 12-foot, 1-ton whale calf and I had 5 separate encounters lasting around 2 minutes each. That blissful memory underscores the surprisingly ubiquitous spiritual connections found in these Hawaiian waters. The most meaningful endeavors rarely promise comfort. The tasks in which my crew and I have engaged have stretched our abilities and deepened our experiences. This is indeed a purposeful adventure that I am living with friends. We find it challenging, uncertain, and consequential. I turn my head to shout at them. Whale swim, I tell them that I'm watching the 12-foot whale calf just swimming 12 feet below me. They know I've stopped and they shout back, keep swimming, Ted. Then As if on cue, the adult whales began a spectacular display of water spouts and thunderous tail flaps. The 40-ton animals danced and frolicked in the Pacific Ocean. They were 7 of 8 of them, apparently putting on a show. Michelle Simmons remarked, "What a great photo that is. It's like SeaWorld at Maui." Captain Andy Jaco began filming the encounter for our official swim documentation. The crew laughed and cheered at the spectacle unfolding around us. What we experienced in that moment was more than a welcome distraction. It became a shared rallying point, a burst of joy and connection in the middle of a demanding journey. Without consciously planning it, the moment reset our collective energy, our sense of shared purpose, and helped us maintain our momentum. The remaining miles no longer felt quite as daunting. And all I have left to do now is get out of the water. And so here's where it gets really interesting. We started the swim on the island of Lanai at Old Club Lanai. And so as we come back around to Lanai, we're finishing back on Lanai after we visited Maui, Molokai. And we're going to finish at a place called Shipwreck Beach because it's geographically desirable. It's closer to the north, less than having to swim and reconnect the exact line, and truncates the total distance to 34 miles in total. But there's a catch. It's called Shipwreck Beach for a reason.
Yeah.
There are literally wrecked ships there. And since they're out of the tourist view, they're fine just to let them sit and rust. And so you have these rusty shells of ships. Some exist as complete ships covered in rust. Others are nothing more than fingers protruding from the land,
Wow.
sharp and jagged and incredibly dangerous. And so as we get closer and closer to it, Captain Andy Chokas says to me, he says, "Ted, this is really, really important. I need you to do everything I do. I need you to stay incredibly close to me. This is a really dangerous part of the swim." And I believe him because Mike Spalding, who's been guiding us, escorting us, helping us with this journey, he's been our guide on the island of Maui. He's one of the legendary swimmers that swam Ali Nui Ha. And he had said to me the day before, "Ted, your crew's going to do everything they can to make sure that you have safe passage. But when you get to Shipwreck Beach, if you have to, you may have to walk over that coral." And I said, "Mike, won't that cut my feet?" He says, "Yes, it will. But it might be the only way you're going to get to finish the Triple Maui Nui Swim." And so I thought about that, and I thought, that's pretty much like walking on broken glass. And so my adrenaline is incredibly high, and I've purposely put this thought at the back burner until I need it. And I bring it to the front now. Am I capable of doing this? Can I do this? And so now we're in the midst of it. And we've got my captain on my left. Terry Dietz is in the water. Now, here's the cool thing. We got the warning from the captain how important it is. But Terry Dietz, prolific marathon channel swimmer that she is, knows these Hawaiian waters like the back of her hand. She says, "Ted, congratulations on finishing the Triple Maui Nui." I said, "Terry, what are you talking about? It's down as far as right now." He says, "I know, and I love this. It's so fun. You go up, you swim. If it looks bad, you just come back and you find another spot." I said, "Terry, that's great. Andy, I'll keep him over on my left. And Terry, I'll keep you over here about 20 some odd feet on my right. And I'll stay right in the middle. And that's what safety looks like." And so not only do I have the two of them for endpoints from a safety perspective, but I also have balance where I can balance that sense of foreboding danger and the serious nature of what we're about to do with Terry's happy-go-lucky attitude and that spirit of fun, engaging adventure. And so I kid you not, here's how that went down. My adrenaline pumping. This finish is only a few steps away, and I can see a clear, safe path, just a few more footsteps, and I'm finally out of the water. "Welcome to Lanai," shouts Captain Andy Joka as Terry claps with excitement. "Thank you so much," I say, physically exhausted yet totally elated. "Triple Maui Nui Swim. That was tough." "You did it," confirms Captain Andy. "Here, the high water mark, up here." "How do you feel?" he asks. "Captain Andy, I feel fantastic. Thank you so much," I announce in gratitude without hesitation. my crew did such a wonderful job. I finished that entire swim without so much as a single scratch.
Wow. Amazing. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Nice job, Ted.
Well, I got one last thing for you.
Okay. And I want to hear about re-entry too, because that's the important part.
Yeah. So here's a quote. It's from an unpublished screenplay. This is not my writing, not my work. It comes from Cormac McCarthy, a screenwriter, and an unpublished play entitled Whales and Men. And here's what he has to say about that. Whales have been evolving for 30 million years to our 1 million. A whale's brain is 3 times the size of mine. The great size of his body has little to do with the great size of his brain, other than as a place to keep it. What if the catalyst or the key to understanding creation lay somewhere in the immense mind of the whale? They have this incredible mental apparatus, and no one has the least notion what they do with it. The most logical supposition, based on physiological and ecological evidence, is that they contemplate the universe. Suppose God came back from wherever it is he's been and asked us smilingly if we'd figured it out yet. Suppose he wanted to know if it had finally occurred to us to ask the whale. And then he sort of looked at us and said, by the way, where are the whales?
Nice.
Isn't that cool? I've got a forthcoming book. And so my book will be entitled The 5 Hammers of the Do Anything Mindset. And that mindset that I shared that I think is so impactful for swimming is the third of my 5 hammers. And in the book, I kind of riff on that sense when the baby whale and I had a moment of contact. And I wrote what I felt. And she and I swam together. And when she appeared under me, I didn't quite know what it was at first. And I struggled to figure it out. It was the tail called a fluke. It has some coloring on it. It's got white for camouflage, and it's got some blue on it, and it's bumpy and lumpy. That's what my eye focused on first, because my brain didn't believe that something so large was truly in my midst. And I looked at that fluke, and I said, what is it? Is it a sea snake? No, I don't think so. And then I imagined something really bizarre. Is it a severed tentacle? Perhaps from this dynamic battle between a sperm whale and a giant squid? And I said, no, the water's not deep enough for that kind of thing. And so it rose up and it rose up. And I was like, that is fascinating. What kind of shark is this? I've never seen anything like it. And visually, I could tell it was about 12 feet long, 12 feet below me. The very first thought, it looked like an organic version of a Boeing 737. Humpback whales have incredibly long fins that extend about a third of their body on each side. There's 8, a little bit in the middle, so you get like 10 foot or 12 foot, and the dimensions that's about the dimensions of a Boeing 737. And then I thought, no, it's a shark I haven't seen, until its head turned just slightly. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is a whale. Wow. And that baby whale, about 12 feet, weighs about 1 ton. And it was so incredible. We swam together, and she slowed to my speed. Humans incredibly slow in terms of whale speed. So she was incredibly curious. I was incredibly curious about her. She was incredibly curious about me. And after 2 minutes, the encounter ended. I thought, how remarkable. I've seen, as a scuba diver and a swimmer, I've seen some truly remarkable things under the water. Nothing comes close to this. And I may never see anything like this for the rest of my life, until a few minutes later. And so we had 5 encounters in total. And it was on that second encounter, and she turned her head and gazed up at me with her left eye. And it just so happened to be when I was breathing, taking a breath on my right side, and my left eye met hers. And looking a whale in the eye, and let's think about what our eyes are. Our eyes, it's our only sensory organ that's actually a portion of our brain. And so there was this brain-to-brain connection I had with that whale, and it was absolutely profound.
I believe it. What a gift. How do you get back to normal life after something like that?
It's a big adjustment, and it's a sense of, how do you have this sense of realness, right? And so we're having a celebratory dinner. So Mike Spalding and his wife, Jill, were hosting us, and I was in the guest house, right? I had to leave dinner at 7 p.m. They made me my favorite meal. I love spaghetti, right? Ice cream afterwards, but spaghetti and a delicious piece of garlic toast. And at 7:05, I looked around and I said, I've been up 36 hours nonstop, swimming for almost 24 hours nonstop. And I can't even eat, which compliments to Tina Neal. She kept me so well fed, so well hydrated, maintained my electrolyte balance. I don't even need dinner after the swim. And I said, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take my plate, excuse myself, go to the guest house and immediately get some sleep. And I set that plate there. And I woke up and I looked at my watch and it's 1:35 a.m. And I realized the only way I'm here in Mike and Jill's guest house is if I completed that swim, and I did it. I mean, that's when the reality hit me. Right. And so I had 5 hours just to think and let all the memories hit me rich, and tears rolled down my eye. And I just thought about how wonderful my crew is. And I got to give a shout out, Dr. Stephen Managlia. He is the essence of the Hawaiian Channel Swimming Association. He personally has swam 46 of those individual channels. He's done a double powwow channel, but individually he swims it. He is the guy that organizes this 3-day swim series of Maui Nui. If someone wants to do these 3 swims in 3 days, a much more reasonable objective. Right. But having him there was so wonderful, and how he opened up and shared with us. The reason we deviated from Becca Mann's pathway and did the exact pathway, beach for beach, island for island, that Harry Hoffaker did, is because Stephen Managlia shared his insights. That is the best possible course for a whole host of reasons. The logistics, the technicality of this swim lends that to be the best. You talk about your 5 closest friends, and he's an incredible friend to help make this swim possible for me. Permanently indebted to the sincerity and the deliberateness with which he helped us make this happen. And I met him for breakfast after the swim, and we had breakfast at 8, and we kept talking 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 p.m. And then we're back on the beach talking to Terry Dietz and having more great conversations about this swim. That's what celebration looks like, right?
Absolutely. That's a way to do it. Yeah. To hold it like I find myself always quickly turning around, but to have those moments to really integrate it. But you still have to come back to your regular life. And that's what I'm curious about, Ted. How do you get home? In Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
Like go back to work someday? How does that happen?
Nashville, Tennessee, right? Nashville, Tennessee. Okay. So here's how we did it. We celebrated celebration dinner at Terry's house with her husband, who's native Hawaiian, Don Dietz. And this setup, when I finished the Kaiwi swim in 2023, I had a hallucination, right? 18 hours and 29 minutes in the water gave me a hallucination. And when I was back on Waikiki Beach, every song I heard was Hawaii 1978, Hawaii 78. And it's a beautiful, pensive, melodic beat that just sings of Hawaii and the spiritual nature of the land. And it's a sad song of lament by a native Hawaiian, a 500-pound man with the voice of an angel. And every single song, and in order to break that, because I heard that days after that swim, it was me, my wife, Michelle, it's Terry Dietz, it's Don Dietz. He's showing us the breathtaking beauty of the island of Oahu. And we're on the northeast side, and we're overlooking Chinaman's house. It's a beautiful volcanic rise in the middle of the ocean. We're having a traditional Hawaiian lunch, and he gets out his ukulele and he plays it and he starts singing Hawaii 1978, and he's able to do that in the natural Hawaiian language. And I'm just tearing up, and it's a cathartic release of all the pain that I experienced on that swim. And now it's coming out because this is the moment. It's like the lightning strike. This is the meaning. Being here with friends, family, and connecting in a really profound way. As humans, if we have one of these moments in our lives, we're incredibly lucky. And it was just such a magical moment. And Don cries, and our wives are looking at us like, what are these boys doing? So Don remembers that. And so after
Yeah.
Triple Maui Nui, we're at the celebratory dinner and he gets out the ukulele and he's playing the ukulele. And we have this reenactment of this great scene, this connection with our lives. And Andy Joka, not to be undone, he takes to the chair. He can sing and he can play and he does Rocky Top. You know, being a Tennessee resident, and Terry's from Tennessee too. So we've got this wonderful dichotomy of one of the greatest songs from the state of Hawaii paired with one of the greatest songs from the state of Tennessee, bookends. And it was just a beautiful thing.
What a way to memorialize this one. That's great. It's fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing, Ted.
Thank you, Shannon. If any of your audience, you know, my LinkedIn is there. So if any of your audience under Ted Lomicka, if they want to watch that whale video, it's a cool video. It shows, you know, where I'm headed. I'm headed to Lanai. It pans over. You can see my kayaker first. Then you see me. You'll see me shout, whale swim, which means the whale's right under me. And then they say, keep swimming, Ted. And I say, keep swimming. And then it pans over and you see some of the adults spouting, tail flapping. And then it pans over a little bit more and you'll see the island of Molokai. So you get a sense how vast that single channel is.
Wow.
It's a fun video. So it's there.
Yeah.
If they want to check me out on Instagram, I've got a funny moniker. I guess it's easy to remember. It's called Brass Monkey 703. I once did my own triathlon, and if I called it Iron Man, I would get sued. But I figured out their formula, right? Metal and primate. My metal is brass. My primate is monkey.
Got it.
And
Got it.
703 miles is the longest triathlon I've ever done.
Wow.
It's as hard as it sounds, but here's the kicker. It was the first swim where I actually won a swim.
Wow.
It happened to be 12 miles. Sharon was there. He's legendary in the ultra distance triathlon. And I bested him by about less than 5 minutes, 4 and change. And it was just the coolest thing to be out of the water, having some food before we got on the bike and sitting there. He's a former mixed martial artist. And rarely do those two folks with such different professions come together. And yet, here we are having this quick meal together, and our conversation was brief. He looks at me, he says, great swim. I look at him, I say, thank you very much. But you know how lucky I am to be in a race with athletes like that, which goes back to mindset and the idea with the right mindset. Ordinary people can do extraordinary things, and I've proven that.
Absolutely. That's a good place to leave it. Thank you, Ted.
Thanks so much for spending part of your day here, listening to stories from the water. I know there are thousands of things vying for your time and attention, so the fact that you choose to be here, to tune in to these voices, these experiences, truly means a lot. Stories help us understand ourselves, connect with others, and make sense of this wild, beautiful world. They're more than entertainment. They're lifelines. They're bridges. And sometimes they're the spark that keeps us moving forward. If this episode spoke to you, if it made you feel something or see things differently, I'd love it if you left a review on your podcast provider or shared it with someone who might need it too. That's how these stories ripple out and reach the people who need them most. Until next time, take care, and thanks for listening.